Have you ever seen this film? You haven't, because it was never made. Welcome back to Golden Flicker. Today we are opening the archives on a pillar of science fiction history. We are going to reveal the 30-year struggle to get the 1953 adaptation of The War of the Worlds onto the screen. We will uncover the lethal million-volt special effect that nearly electrocuted the crew, and the incredible story of a 12-year-old girl who spent a sleepless night helping her father build a monster out of chicken wire and wet latex.
I really do think The War of the Worlds was the film that gave birth to the modern science fiction era.
Do you remember the first time you heard the terrifying metallic hiss of the Martian heat ray? Or perhaps you recall the cold mechanical eye probing that dark farmhouse cellar. The desperation behind those legendary moments is more dramatic than the film itself. The journey of The War of the Worlds to the silver screen was a decades-long marathon through the corridors of Paramount Pictures. The studio first acquired the rights to H.G. Wells's novel in 1924 for a mere pittance. It was originally intended as a silent epic for the legendary Cecil B. DeMille, who wanted to maintain the Victorian setting and use stop-motion tripods. However, DeMille became distracted by other spectacles, and the project languished for nearly 30 years. During that time, the property became a tantalizing what-if for cinema's greatest minds. Sergei Eisenstein, the Soviet master of montage, expressed interest in 1930, though he wanted to transpose the action to the United States to show the daughters of the American Revolution getting blasted by Martians. Even Alfred Hitchcock flirted with the idea in 1931. And of course, in 1938, Orson Welles famously terrified the American nation with his hyper-realistic radio broadcast of the story.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is
Yet, despite this massive cultural impact, when stop-motion pioneer Ray Harryhausen produced a hauntingly beautiful 16mm test reel in the late 1940s, featuring a slimy, octopus-like Martian emerging from a cylinder, he took his footage all over Hollywood, but the industry gatekeepers were convinced that people weren't interested in science fiction. The project only moved forward when producer George Powell discovered the unproduced scripts in a dusty Paramount filing cabinet.
Harryhausen wanted to do War of the Worlds, but Cecil B. DeMille said, "I'm sorry, I own it and I'm giving it to George Powell." He was very disappointed, but he said, "George is my very good friend, and if anyone can pull this off, it'll be George Powell."
Powell was a visionary who had emigrated from Europe just before the war. He was passionate, but he faced a formidable enemy, Paramount's production chief, Don Hartman. Hartman reportedly loathed the genre and, in a fit of pique, called Barry Lyndon's screenplay a piece of crap before literally throwing it into the wastepaper basket. Legend has it that Powell was so incensed he leapt across the desk and had to be restrained from strangling his boss. It took the intervention of studio president Frank Freeman to rescue the script and give Powell the green light. The culture at Paramount in the 1950s was a studio-run community. From the camera crews to the art directors, every department lived under one roof. It was a world of the golden circle, where the stars of tomorrow had to punch a time card every morning, just like the stagehands. Amidst this corporate family, George Powell brought a personal touch. He had a deep, lifelong friendship with animation legend Walter Lantz, the creator of Woody Woodpecker. Lantz had actually sponsored Powell's American naturalization and helped him start his Puppetoon series. As a private tribute and a good luck charm, Powell began hiding Woody in every one of his films.
It all started with Destination Moon. I believe that the Woody in War of the Worlds is in opening scenes of the meteor flashing through the night sky over the treetops.
When it came time to design the invaders, Powell and director Byron Haskin faced a logistical nightmare. Wells's original tripods were deemed too expensive for stop motion and, more interestingly, too vulnerable. Powell actually consulted with the Pentagon during pre-production. The military officials told him in no uncertain terms that in the age of modern artillery and radar, walking tripods would be a curb-stomp battle in favor of humanity. They would be shot to pieces before they could take a single step. Consequently, art director Albert Nazaki moved away from legs and toward the Manta ray design. These sleek copper craft were protected by an invisible bomb-proof hood shield that rendered the atomic bomb completely ineffective.
Magnificent copper machines were just gliding above you, all across the soundstage. It was quite eerie and very, very impressive.
The moguls were intricate pieces of engineering, 42 inches wide, made of copper and weighing 31 pounds. To make them fly, the crew used 15 hair-thin wires for each machine. To create the disintegration rays, they didn't use computers. They filmed a welding torch against a black background and optically matted it over the ships.
I remember coming on the set and looking up at this enormous cobra head. And I said, what in God's name is that? And somebody flipped a switch and that thing came on. Scared the devil out of me. I jumped a mile.
Casting the film was equally unconventional. Powell wanted anonymous actors because he wanted the Martians to be the real stars. Gene Barry was cast as Dr. Clayton Forrester. Anne Robinson.
And my knees were shaking so hard I had to sit down and I put the script, on a podium because I didn't dare touch it. I couldn't have read it. And I recreated the script in front of them. And George Powell, then and there, said, she doesn't look the part, but we'll make her look the part.
Director Byron Haskin, a man of few words, wasn't entirely convinced by his leads. He famously described their performances as terribly wooden, and often joked about which frightened look they should try that day. Yet this woodenness perhaps perfectly captured the stilted, high-anxiety atmosphere of 1950s America under threat.
There were only two scenes that I recall that were eliminated. One where I was lying in Gene Barry's arms, and there's something about his tie as I awaken that remind me of my Uncle Matthew. And then suddenly I start reminiscing about Uncle Matthew, but that was eliminated. I don't know why, maybe it just wasn't necessary. The other one was when we're climbing out of the farmhouse and he's shaking me. He says, don't worry, we're going to get out of this somehow. Well, the theater just fell on the floor laughing, so they cut that out.
If you are enjoying this journey into the secrets of the silver screen, illuminate our day by clicking like and subscribe to Golden Flicker, so you never miss a story from the annals of cinema history. Which film or director should we explore next? Let us know in the comments. Byron Haskin and George Powell established a unique geography of fear for the film. They enforced an east to west rule. The Martians always moved from the right of the screen to the left. This created a subconscious sense of a relentless incoming tide. More importantly, they decided to never show the story from the Martians' point of view. We only see what the humans see, making the invaders feel like an unknowable, unstoppable force of nature. They also fundamentally altered the book's ending. H.G. Wells was a socialist and an atheist who used the Martian defeat by bacteria as a piece of secular irony, imperialism brought down by a common cold. Powell, a devout Catholic, turned this into a religious miracle. The film's climax takes place in a church, and the final narration by Cedric Hardwicke explicitly states,
Humanity was saved by the littlest things which God in his wisdom had put upon this earth.
It was a message of faith for a generation living in the shadow of the mushroom cloud. We have reached the golden flicker moment. The production nearly ended in a literal flash of light. The original plan for the Martian machines was to use 1 million volts of static electricity to create visible, crackling magnetic legs that would connect the ships to the ground. It would have been a spectacular sight, but the technicians realized that a single stray spark on the soundstage could have electrocuted every actor and crew member in the vicinity. The idea was scrapped, and the machines were left to hover on their invisible wires. But the most incredible story of the production is the creation of the Martian itself. Charles Gemora, a veteran makeup artist, was hired to build the alien suit.
He designed this Martian guy. First glimpse you get of it is where they're looking through a hole in the wall and you see him go by, and it really looks, whoa, that's creepy.
Just 20 hours before the famous farmhouse scene was due to film, the art director realized the original suit was too large to fit through the set's doors. Gemora had to start from scratch. Working through the night in his garage, he was aided by his 12-year-old daughter, Diana.
We put chicken wire around the armature. We put plaster bandages over that. Now we have to work these huge arms into this very small body. We pulled the old latex off the old monster and layer it on first, and then start putting new layers on over it. And this is beginning to really start looking opaque and real. And I'm going, this is real. This is really looking real. Even I'm thinking this is looking real.
Because Gemora had to kneel inside the tiny 4-foot suit, he couldn't move. The suit was mounted on a dolly and pulled by wires, while Diana hid beneath the floorboards of the set. She spent the shoot with a series of squeeze bottles and tubes, pumping air to make the Martian's veins pulsate.
The veins in the head were totally a last-minute idea. As it gets close to dawn, we're realizing it's the deadline. And this Martian has not cured and is falling apart right before our eyes. We're wondering if this is going to hold up through the shot. He's trying to get the prop man to go this way, that way, faster, not so fast, stop, go, left, right, pump, 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 pump. All this is going on at the same time. He's going like this. He almost fell over. And we knew if that Martian fell, it would be a disaster.
When you see that hand reach for Anne Robinson, you are seeing a father and daughter's sleepless night of desperate ingenuity. Do you agree that this is the true golden flicker moment? The film was a massive success, winning the Academy Award for Best Special Effects. But its legacy was tarnished for decades by a technical quirk. For years, critics and audiences mocked the visible wires holding the ships. The truth, however, is that those wires were virtually invisible in 1953.
Technicolor camera is huge. It's the size of a person. And you have to cover it with heavy, heavy matting because you have 3 strips of film going through, and it's very noisy.
This process produced a slightly softer, more saturated image that naturally hid the fine support cables.
See, the wires were painted blue so that it would not show up on the screen, but some people have maintained they could see the wires pretty well.
When the film was later transferred to cheaper Eastman color for television and home video in the 1970s, the image was brightened and sharpened, exposing the trick. This has led to a fierce debate among film purists. Should we leave the wires as a historical artifact, or should we erase them? In the 2018 4K restoration, Paramount chose to digitally remove the wires. Where do you stand? Is removing the wires a necessary restoration, or an act of digital tinkering that erases the history of the craft? Let us know in the comments. The influence of the War of the Worlds is impossible to overstate. It birthed the modern alien invasion genre, influencing everything from the Japanese classic The Mysterians to the mass destruction of Independence Day, and even the original Space Invaders arcade game. The story continues into the future, with the Steven Spielberg 2005 version and the 2025 project starring Ice Cube. From a script tossed into the bin to an Oscar-winning masterpiece, George Pal's vision proved that with enough ingenuity and a bit of chicken wire, cinema can conquer even a Martian invasion. If you discovered something new today, illuminate our day by clicking like and subscribe to Golden Flicker, so you never miss a story from the annals of cinema history. Which film should we explore next? Let us know in the comments.